I'm going to give you all a gift.
We love it. Love this.
But I would need you to remind me by the end of my session to give you that gift.
Okay. We will.
I hope you remember. So throughout my work as a lawyer, a well-being communicator, and a policy advisor, I've often been fascinated by this question. And I want to ask this question of you. I want you to consider this with me, and I want you to put on your thinking cap. Why do some people flourish while others struggle to find their voice? Whenever I think about this, I realize that leadership, communication, and well-being are not separate conversations. In fact, they are connected, not disconnected. Leadership, communication, and well-being are connected. And why do I say that? Because leadership reveals who you are, your identity. Communication reveals the kind of leadership that you're passing on to people. And then that leadership is then sustained by well-being. Your well-being and the well-being of the people you're leading. And if you're not, as a leader, if you're not well, if you're anxious, if you're overwhelmed, you cannot lead, or you cannot make decisive decisions. And as a person who is being led, if you're also anxious, if you're overwhelmed, you can't also deliver on your priorities or your objectives. So this is why leadership, communication, and well-being is very essential. Because without well-being, you can't flourish, you cannot grow, you can't be productive, you can't be innovative. So you need to be well. And well-being is not a conversation for just one person. It's for the leader and for the person being led. And today, I'm not going to take you through any framework. I'm going to take you through stories to help you understand how leadership, communication, and well-being connect. I'm going to ask you all a question. And that question is, I'll start with the question, is, has anyone ever seen or used a mirror before? Raise your hands if you have. Yeah, I was hoping all of us. But I can see a few people. I can see a few people not raising their hands. Does it mean that you guys haven't seen a mirror? Because this is one now. Okay, thank you. Who is your mirror? Who is your mirror?
Yourself. Myself.
Okay. And what kind of mirror are you becoming for others? When I speak about mirrors, I use it as a metaphor for the people whose actions I emulate, the people who influence my life, the people who have helped me grow in different spaces. And today, I'll be speaking about one of those people because there are lots of them. I'll be speaking about Sanat. Sanat, yeah, this is it. Slide 2. Nope, sorry. Sanat is someone I met at Godiva Speaker Toastmasters. I've actually met him. It's 2 years now since I met him. When you meet Sanat, there's really nothing fascinating to see about him. He doesn't have that stereotype that we often ascribe to leaders. No power suits. Fortunately, I'm wearing one today. No power suits. No authoritative voice. There's no need to be seen or known. In fact, if you meet Sanat, you would walk away and not even know someone was standing there. But in Sanat's way, in how he's shown up authentically, and without necessarily having a leadership position at Toastmasters, he has still led from where he is. And in him doing that, he has taught me to be authentic in myself. He has taught me that I do not need to have a position. I do not need to have a leadership role to make an impact. So I'm learning to show up authentically in my own self. And if you show up authentically, when you show up authentically, it helps your well-being. It helps your physical health and your mental health. Because if you're showing up inauthentically, what then happens is you're not yourself. You're performing. And performance, there's never an end to performing. Something else about Sanat is role modeling. It's in how Sanat would evaluate. When you meet Sanat, he gives you constructive feedback. The kind of feedback that he would tell you what you've done, how well you've done what you've done, and then he will go on to tell you how well you could improve what you've done. And he doesn't only end there, he goes ahead to tell you, to show you how to do it better. And there's something that happens there is confidence. It gives you the confidence to try it out on your own. Because sometimes when we give feedback to people, at the end of the day, they might end up feeling diminished, or they might never really know how to apply that feedback. But when Sanat evaluates you, evaluates your performance, you walk out of that room feeling empowered, not disempowered. You walk out of that room feeling confident to impact somebody else. And that, what happens to you then? You're going out there and impacting life in a confident space. It helps you as a person. It helps your well-being. You're showing up confidently. And then whenever you get to engage with Sanat, something very significant that happens to you is that the way he empowers you, the way he encourages you, and then you leave feeling challenged and encouraged, challenged to grow. Because he is that leader that shows you in practice, practically, like, this is how you're going to do it. And then he would, if it's something that, I'll give an example is one time when I started Toastmasters for the first time, and he was trying to teach me how to shake people. I'm just gonna, And then he would say to me, this is how you shake. You put the hand in like this and look at the person and then talk to the person you're engaging with, because it shows that you're actually happy to meet the person as well. And then he would say to me, when you're speaking to people, look them in the eye. Don't look at the floor, because the floor does not love you. People love you. You're talking to people, not the floor. So that's how practical he gives you that evaluation. That's how practical it is when you engage with him. And that's what is called role modeling. So one thing is, people do what you do, not what you say. So we can go about saying so much, but if you're not showing people will definitely mirror what you're showing them, not what you're telling them to do. Now, Let's talk about how Sanat would fill gaps. Sanat walks into a room, and every time he has showed up for our event, and there's something that there's a role that hasn't been filled, he goes on to fill that role. He goes on to fill that role. And in him doing that, he's showing service. He's showing us how to serve. Like, it shows me that I do not need to be assigned a role for, I do not need to be told to do certain things. It shows me that when I see a gap, I should fill that gap. It helps me to also serve without being asked to do it. And it goes on to even, I think this is something that Winston Churchill said. Winston Churchill said that greatness begins with responsibility. And it is in that spot that a leader comes up to it. It's in that occasion that a leader comes up to serve. Because as a leader, your responsibility is service. That's how you're impacting lives. And then when Sanat doesn't know something, he says gently that what he doesn't know, and then redirects you to what he does know. And that helps me to know that I could actually say to someone, I don't know this thing, but I would like to learn. Because sometimes we can get to that space where we feel like we should know everything. But no, you don't need to know everything, but you can be curious to learn. That's something that I have learned. So it has also taught me to learn to speak up when I don't know something, and then tell somebody what I know in terms of engagement. Now, looking at how Sanat celebrates his win. Oh, to Sanat, every outcome is worth celebrating. Sanat would tell me, do not rush over your win. You have to celebrate your win because you made it. And in doing that, I have learned to also celebrate my own win. In celebrating my win, it's a way to show gratitude to the people who also supported you in the path to getting that success. And the thing is, during your downtime, the time that you're celebrating is that moment you use in celebrating is like a memory that you hold on to for the future. Because when you're going through a downtime, that is what will help you in being resilient, because you will look back and then you know that I achieved something last time. So there will definitely be a next time. And when you celebrate your win, you're encouraged. When you celebrate your win, you're empowered. When you celebrate the wins of the people that you're working with as a leader, it encourages them to do better because they know that they are being cared for. Now let's talk about, one other example is how Sanat supported the Godiva's Toastmaster Club. Sanat showed up, and even when he is a member of a very successful club in England, at the time, the Godiva's Club that he's a part of was still struggling and trying to come up. But he has stayed with that club and has actively poured into every person that walks into that club until this moment. And do you know what that has done? It has created a sense of community in that club. And whenever people are reflecting about Godiva speaker, one of the things they will say is they love the sense of community. And that's what leaders do. You create a sense of belonging. you create a sense of community. And when people feel like they belong somewhere, it helps them to be themselves, and it helps to project things better and even deliver on your priorities. And so when I speak about mirrors, I'm not speaking about this. I'm speaking about the people who impact your life, the people you're looking up to. And also about you, because you're mirrors to people. Sometimes you might feel like I'm not a leader, so there's nothing, I don't need to do too much, or I don't need to show up in a certain way. But people are watching you. Your actions are impacting people. Your actions are a reflection of other people's lives. And so I would say today that, I believe that, I would like to believe that everyone in this room are showing up in this way. You can connect to some of the things I've talked about in the lives of Sanat. But again, for those who may not feel like they're showing up in that way, it's never too late to start. You can start now. And sometimes when we talk about being leaders, it can be like, it can seem like it can feel like pressure. Pressure because you'd feel the need to be perfect. But leadership doesn't call you to perfection. It calls you to curiosity. Sometimes, I use this slide. You could see a closed door, a slightly open door, and a wider open door. Curiosity. This is someone being critical. When you're critical, you don't leave any room for understanding. When you're critical, you don't leave any room to ask questions. So for example, you give a task to someone you're working with, and maybe they did not meet expectations. It's easy to assume that the person doesn't have the capacity to deliver on that. But was there any time that you checked to see, did you understand what the objective? Was your objective clear enough for this person to understand? Did you provide sufficient support to them? These are questions that sometimes we might miss. And when these things, when we don't ask for clarity, or when we don't get clarity, what then happens is that we might lose an experienced staff, for example. And even in relationships, there might be a lot of misunderstanding because you're not asking for context. As human beings, we walk around life with our own beliefs. We walk around life with, the experiences that we have. And it's like this: if this cup is filled with water, you can't add more water to it. That's how it is. So if you're already walking around with all of your beliefs and experiences, and you're not opening up the door to hear more, understand more, what then happens is limited perspective, because you might misunderstand situations. I would so just to buttress this, because I don't want to go all theoretical. I remember a time when, at my first job, I was feeling really anxious, and then the anxiety became intense. And then it got to a point where I was burnt out. And then at that time, I just didn't care about money, whether I was ambitious. I didn't care about how I was going to pay my bills. So one day I just wrote my resignation letter, and then I sent it over. My CEO heard about it and called me to speak to me. And then when she called me in, after we had a conversation, she just said to me, "Take the time you need away. After you're done and you feel better, if you still want to resign, bring your letter and I will take it from you." Can anybody tell me what happened after I felt better? Can anybody guess?
You went back.
I went back. I didn't only go back. I went back to that job, and that year I was so agile. I was so productive that I won the best employee for that quarter. That is what happens. That's what happens when we are curious. And when I speak about curiosity, curiosity is not just for the leader. It's also for the person who is being led. Because it's a two-way street. For someone who is being led, you want to ask for clarity. You want to ask to know what the priorities are. There's nothing wrong in saying, I do not know, and I need clarity on this. That's how it works with curiosity. And also for the person being led, you need to give sufficient context to whatever you're giving out. Why do I say this? Because for me, I feel when you're not clear, when you do not give sufficient context, it feels like a bald head because there's nothing to work with. It's like if you have a bald head, what are you going to comb? So that's how it is when you give information that is not. That's how it is when you give an information that is not clear to someone, because what are you going to work with? No. No. Okay. No. That this is like, can we please just, can we take the information I'm passing? Because I'm okay. I think I'm going to have to cut my presentation short here because we are running out of time, but I do have a lot more to share. But I hope that we will be curious enough to know. We'll be curious enough to ask questions. And we'll be the kind of leader that would empower others and not disempower them. We'll be the kind of leaders that will not make people feel small. We'll be the kind of leaders that would celebrate the wins of our employers, employees, and the people that we are working with. That will be the kind of leaders that will create a sense of community wherever we find ourselves. Thank you.